time to open up memories of your past. It's time to move on. It's time to open up the shadows of your heart. It's time to move on. 'Cause it's a great time to live, and it's time to stand up and be counted. It's a great time to live, and it's time to stand up and be counted on. try to explain, I'll probably get it all wrong. What does it mean when you promise someone, no matter how hard or whatever may come? It means that I won't give in, won't give in, won't give in. 'Cause everyone I love is here, paying once, disappear. Once in a while I return to the fold, and people I call my own. Even if time is just a flicker of light, we all have to die alone. What does it mean when you belong to someone, when you're born with a name and you carry it on? It means that I won't give in, won't give in, won't give in. 'Cause everyone I love is here, all at once. I'll show you how to get here. Come on now, come on now. Can you feel it? Can you see it in you? Come on now, come on now. Feel it. Turn around, won't you? The right time, the right place, right now. Turn around. Chance is made, a chance is lost. I carry myself to the edge of the earth. It means that I won't give in, won't give in, won't give in. 'Cause everyone I love is here. Say it once, say it and disappear. come and rest in my Let me tell you your whole story. Let me walk you through your lives. Only a second, that's all it takes to realize there's 100,000 angels by your side. There's 100,000 angels here
My name is Margaret Garland and I'm a minister here at Knox Church. Before we begin the service today, I should mention, especially with so many people here, that should there be an emergency, we have a number of exits that are all marked around the church, and the gathering area is in the car park at the far end of Knox or out on the street, which is a reasonably safe place with the roadworks at the moment. So please do that. So welcome all of you to Knox Church and to this service where we have gathered to give thanks for the life of Kristan Mouat. Welcome to those gathered here in this church and those watching on live stream. As we remember Kristan, a person of immense gifting, one who has inspired and guided so many, and one to whom we are having to say goodbye far too soon. We gather to appreciate all that she is and continues to be to each one here, to give thanks for a life very well lived, and to say farewell with gratitude for her living and immeasurable grief at her death. And so to the family and close friends, a very deepest sympathy at this time. May God's love and compassion surround you, and at this time and in the time to come. Akarakia.
Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa. Ko ronda tōkuna taku ingoa. My daughter said to me, Mum, you better write this down, otherwise I'll just go on and on. So it's a very structured farewell. So I stand here today as the board chair of Logan Park High School, speaking on behalf of the board, but also in my capacity as someone equally shocked and devastated at the tragic passing of our beloved co-principal, Kristan Mouat. The forever messages that people have expressed throughout this trying time speak to the character of Kristan in a way that honours her essence, her vibrancy, her warm, loving, caring nature, as she lived life and graced us all with her presence. The lens of our relationship began when she became co-principal with Peter in 2017. And during that time, I bore witness to all of the many tributes that have been made to Kristan. I know she loved her job, was passionate about education, touched both students, teachers, and all educators she came into contact with, leaving an unparalleled impression that will last in all of our lives, even as we say farewell today. During the tough times, Kristan bore herself gracefully. In the Māori world, she was a true wahine toa, which is a strong woman, but of such gentle disposition. She was protected by her family and those that knew her true character, and for that she was forever grateful. But more importantly, it was as it should be for someone that gave so much of herself to us all. It was the least we could do, Kristan. So I impart this eulogy to Kristan with words that only the great master himself can express, the bard, in which I feel embodies her love, her spirit, her essence, and testimony to a life lived with grace. To thine own self be true, as it must follow, as the night, the day. Thou canst not then be false to anyone. And she wasn't. But I'm going to end this eulogy on a note from my husband, actually, Walter Grills, who loved her and who supported her when she needed him most. And his last words were, "The spark doesn't die with her death." Farewell, dear heart. We love you.
Good afternoon. For those that don't know, I am Peter Hills. I am the other half of the co, and it would only be fitting that she's sitting over my right shoulder and left, telling me what to say, because she normally ran the assemblies and all the public speaking things, because that was her forte. And I am reasonably well known for making really short speeches. This morning, however, we had a service at school for about 800 or 900, which was a good thing, because it was a chance for our students to share time with our staff. And I did ask their forgiveness because I went on a little bit, so it might be about twice as long in 3 minutes. Kristan was her own unique self. She was spiritually really strong, she was a character, she had humour, and she was quite content with her own life. And for that, I learned a lot. Death came a bit too soon for all of us, but for Kristan, she was okay. And she always maintained that attitude that if it was today, then so be it. We did have a lot of chances to talk about that for a variety of reasons. But today, I'm quite determined, and I think so is she, that we should be celebrating her life and not sombre about it. So, we'd like to, and that's a key ingredient with what I'd like to get today. So, the really short version of Kristan Barbara Mouat, which I'll leave the family side to Justine and family, but we'll give that our take because she was part of our family for 31 years, which is quite a long time. She was an Alex girl, and that was where our similarities stopped. Because we were the opposition. I was in Ranfurly, and Vincent and Maniatoto didn't really get along that well. She was a student of English and media studies, studied in Dunedin, Otago Uni, and then went to Christchurch. And then after a one-year stint in Christchurch, she came back to Dunedin, and she's been here ever since. Logan Park was her home, it was her happy place. She started as a teacher. She ended up obviously progressing along that to be the co-principal with myself. We, and she in particular, had a strong drive for what we wanted to achieve with young people. We wanted happy, good people. And then we thought about it a lot more and we thought, actually, we want happy, good staff as well. That was pretty much the main ingredient in producing happy, good people, was passionate people who wanted to deliver what they thought was their strength and was their strength to the students within those values that we've well articulated over the last few years of respect, motivation and inclusiveness. So Kristan's time at Logan Park was quite varied. She started way back in 1992 with a long-term relieving position in English under Colin Crowdis. And it was when I was compiling this information, I figured she'd been through about 5 or 6 principals by the time she had taught for 9 years. I didn't know whether there was a relationship there or not, but she started with hockey. That was her thing from Vincent, coached at school. And she was also teaching and coaching drama. But then she did hive off back to Christchurch and came back with a permanent job under John Letts. And in her application letter, she wrote quite clearly, I want to get back to the fantastic staff and students of the school. And in 1995, her then mentor, Russell Wallace, wrote in the yearly notes that we have a gentle soul who demands quality. And that pretty much subtitled Kristan's next few years, where she was involved heavily, obviously, in meditation and positive thinking. She was developing Shakespeare as a process within the school, and she also went part-time at the College of Education, tutoring junior English. She had another principal, Gordon Wilson, who's still hanging around our school, in a nice way. And then eventually Jane Johnson, who's here as well, and coincidentally is still at the school doing something for the reunion. So if you want to know anything about that, see Jane. It's 50 years in 2025. She also had a strong relationship with youth. She developed a whole lot of things at school, and I'll look at those in a minute. While she crafted her skills as an HOD of English and also subsequently an assistant principal. She finished her time with the college and then fully devoted herself to the school. There was no room for anything else in her life because she had a whole lot of things that she wanted to do. She had to go at the National Aspiring Principals Program in 2013 and then eventually took up the role of assistant principal in 2015, and her meteoric rise ended in 2017 when we decided that we would jointly have a go at this principal thing. And it is worth a little story. Neither of us wanted to apply for the job. We were quite clear about that. we were not going to give away our lives, because we'd seen so many other principals give away themselves too much. And we decided, we're quite happy just to be what we are. And I was probably in the exit lounge at that stage, and then we came up with this idea of, well, how about sharing it? That might be all right. We could probably live okay and have a life, because you can always blame the other one, or you can always palm it off to someone else. And we did a little bit of research around the world. Ross Notman, who was over at the uni, did quite a lot of extensive research and said, look, it's something you can do. If you get along together, you probably could. So at that stage, we had a few discussions about what our similarities were. She was from Alex, I was Ranfurly. She was the townie, I was the more rural farming orientated one. We both had degrees in commerce. Yes, she was the head of English, but she had a commerce degree. And it sort of went beyond that. Then we figured out that we were both December babies, and we had a common interest in the sense that her uncle, I think Arthur, was my tutor at Christchurch. We both had the same views on life as far as what we wanted out of school. We were quite clear on what we wanted to produce, and that was reasonably straightforward. We wanted the uniqueness of each child to drive what we produced as a school. I used to say it in weird ways. I'd say it's a market-driven approach, because I come out of the commercial world, listen to your clients, make sure you give them what they want, and she'd be up there telling me, no, you can't say it like that, you have to say it this way. But it worked. We did have something else in common, and I've only just figured that out this morning. We spent 4 years working for the same organisation in the same building, and we never met, which probably says something about the organisation. One of the things when Kristan left the College of Education was a comment that I read from her tutor at the time, and I'll read it. Our student teachers have always spoken about Kristan's work in the most glowing of terms. In fact, they adored her. They loved her personality, her humour, her warmth and enthusiasm. And if you have a look on Facebook, Instagram or Snapchat, you'll see there's hundreds and hundreds of comments at the moment like that. There was no doubt about what her strengths were. When she was at Logan Park, she developed, and this was last century, for the young people in the audience, and everybody today just laughed and thought, last century, we weren't alive then, but most of the people here were. So in the last century, when Kristan first started, she organised race unity. She developed an interfaith group. She had Peace Week, Youth Week, Karaoke Week, debating, Shakespeare, public speaking, Market Day, and the International Food Festival. They all started last century. It showed that the school was quite progressive. I think it probably was at the end of last century, Jane might put me right, that the first gay couple could go to a formal at Logan Park last century. Yet we've still got people catching up now. So it does show how progressive the school had been. When she became co-principal, she was excited because she could do stuff. She could make change. There were things that she could do that you probably couldn't do as an HOD. But it was all around the same thought process, that we wanted to produce really good, happy people. That was the outcome. I wrote some notes before we did our first upgraded prospectus in 2017. And I've forgotten I'd written them, but I'm going to read them to you. Kristan was confident, thriving, empowered to succeed, and understood one size did not fit all. She had high expectations. She was disciplined and had really positive relationships. She had humour, an extensive vocabulary, and a strong and secure sense of her own identity. Students adored her. They loved her, and they still do. That is a unique quality to have as a teacher, a lasting memory. Just as she was always 38. She was so particular about photos that Janine would take. No, not having that. So the only photos we've got are of this 38-year-old. will never grow old, and I suppose that was part of it. But she loved doing her job, and she will never grow old. That's something she'll leave us with. Our co-principalship worked really well. I don't have any doubt that it was a model that fitted us, it fitted our personalities, and is one that should be further developed in other places. But we were the first. We tried a whole bunch of things, and we tried different processes to get things going. We had different ways of doing things, and it was fun. That was interrupted, obviously, a few years ago with the mandate thing, which proved really hard for Kristan. It's well documented what her views were, and her intellect, her health. We never discussed it. We never debated it. We supported it. We were different, but we respected her, and it was something that was really important for us to make that stance on. So our whole corridor thought, how do we do this? How do we get around this? We understand where she is. It's not going to be well liked, but tough. So we moved on. And she was really steely about what she believed in. So that was it. And then it made me think, have we ever argued about anything? And I'm struggling. I'd like to say yes, but we didn't. We'd discuss things and we'd have different viewpoints, but we never argued. So that was something quite nice about the relationship. And it also said something about her, that she could always find that positive thing. So the respect that she gave was returned. It was one of those times. As we moved forward, in particular thanks to Andrew and Janine and the board and Mark, it was a very positive way to view an awkward situation. Kristan shed many tears. It was tough. She also used a whole lot more expletives than anybody's ever heard. It was quite fun. I don't know whether I should say that, but it was. It was a chance for her to use her wide vocabulary. There was frustration and disappointment, and there was a steely resolve. She was incredibly strong-willed, and she wanted to keep her job. And she loved her job. She loved the kids, and she loved teaching. That never, ever left her. It was something that she kept all the way through. Kristan's family was really important to her, and I'm so pleased. Welcome Hayden from the States. Nice. And everybody else that's viewing this around from wherever you are. Her family was central. Both the Logan Park family and her own family. And I'll let Justine go on about that. Especially those two new additions, Mila and Indy. It was the joy of her life. Friday night, she couldn't wait every night to go and see those kids. It was great. So that was one good thing that came of some time at home. Her mother moved south, Claire, and she was a rock. She was a great woman, and she lived with Kristan until she passed. And it was a tough time for the family, and has been. But Kristan, as only she could, she dealt with all those things, put it in a place, and carried on. And came back to school, and was keen to get on with it. She kept her integrity, she was resilient, and only as she could, she found the positive in everybody once again. And that's what she would want to hear and to do. I want to finish with the last 24 hours that we spent together. Not the whole 24 hours, but we had parent interviews. She was in her element. She was meeting everybody that she'd taught. She was meeting all the kids she'd interviewed, the parents that had been there before with other siblings. It was one of those nights. And for me, I get the phone call at 2 minutes to 7 to say, are you ready for your first interview? At 7. So she was still in that mode where she was my minder, which was nice, but she was in a really happy place. The next morning, she had new parents who were looking to enrol, and so she did her normal thing. She had the conversation and the tour, and on the tour she went to one classroom and found a teacher using those expletives at their screen because they'd forgotten about something and it was causing a bit of grief. And so she said, oh, that's a passionate teacher dealing with their screen. She walked next door and dealt with another teacher who was in tears, with a student who was in tears. That's another passionate teacher dealing with a problem that is in the school at the moment, but that's just passion, so that's a great thing, you know, seeing the half full. She then went into the Manawatoi Whakaari and she saw these people in PPE and hazard suits, and I was one of them because we've had an issue with mould in the school, so they had to be doing the testing and I had to show them where things were, so that was explained. I don't know how, but she did. And then she went off to teach her media studies class, which was a joyful, happy place. Loved the class, loved the kids, loved the topics. It was just her to a T. I thought, that's got to be enough for a day, hasn't it? No. Then, I don't know if Mike Waterhouse is here, but if he is, I'm talking about you. We had a scheduled meeting with Mike, who's the national MP, and we talked about a variety of things, from fringe groups capturing the media and capturing politics in schools and education, and we talked about this and that. And then Kristan asked a question. What would you cross the floor for, Mike? Freedom of speech, was Mike's reply. Kristan was happy. So she left him and went to teach. Left me with it, but she was happy at that response. I would say Mike thought he would never, ever in his lifetime have to think about it, but he is. And this isn't a political contest. So off she went to class, and I thought, that's enough for the day. But then after school I remembered it was Aero time. Now we started in 2017 and we had an Aero visit, and it was crushing. In a good way, we did well, but it was one of the most torrid times that we'd had because we were just subjected to questions that you just didn't think should be asked. But here we are, 2023, we're Aero time again. This time it was with a guy called Mike Fowler, who was the principal at Hagley College. We loved Hagley College. It was quite similar in many ways to ourselves. It also was where a certain family member works. We stole a lot of their stuff. It was quite good. We used a lot of their stuff. We thought, it's better than ours, we'll use it in terms of policies and so on. But anyway, Mike was now our Aero reviewer, and at the end of that day, I think 4:30, 4:45, the conversation was about how much extra paper was being used in the bathrooms at school, and environmentally it was damaging. It was with another person from the staff. We thought, that's enough. Let's finish it there and go home. So it was time to go for Kristan, and off she went out the door. There were kiruru outside her door on the co-fires. The sun was shining. She saw the chamber music students who were off to the contest, and they did really well. And it was a chance to go home and see the family. That was Friday. In between all that, she'd had a planned meeting with another staff member, and it was culminated with a note being left by that staff member on the desk. Now, I can't say what the note said, but it was enough to say, I read it, Kristan read it, and it brought us both to tears. It was great. It was such a kind, creative, funny, but sincere message that left her in no doubt that she was loved and thanked. And what a great way to finish your week. So off she went. Unbeknown to me, when she walked out and talked to the chamber music kids, I have a fairly loud stereo in my room, and I was playing Coldplay's Sky Full of Stars. So it was that was the end of the Friday when she went home. Why I'm telling those stories is she lived a colourful life. She had a great time, it covered things wide-ranging, and she embraced it all. She would love us to remember what she helped create, whether it was winning at dodgeball, which was her thing, or whether it was a speech contest, whether it was when she was young and learning things, climbing up the walls, all the race unity, the karaoke, the youth weeks, the welcoming parents, and Jacoby, you're in that one, or whether it was being a group teacher for Aoraki a way back. In the end, she was a winner. She was loved by all. Her family was always close. She kept playing dodgeball. And the part that I really like is the Logan Park High School crest. Kua mutu, kua timata. It is finished. Now it has begun. So thank you, Kristan. We are privileged to work with you. I can't understand how you could run your life with 62,000 emails in your inbox, but she did. She would want us to take one thing with us, and that is the legacy that she's left us. Be positive, say something nice, have fun, grow, and embrace others. Human nature, goodness will come to the surface, and we'll get there. So thank you.
When I came back to Dunedin in 2015 for an interview with Kristan and Peter for the HUD English job, I was staying at my parents' house at the beach out at Ocean View. I'd spent time in the dunes out there asking myself, what is this cold wind that blows in off the Pacific onto our city? What is it trying to say in its harshness? What is it a premonition of? This place, Otapoti, has a soul which is hard to articulate. You either get it or you don't. Kristan got it. She came, she left, she came back, and she stayed. I was standing on the beach later that afternoon, a strong southerly blowing through my bones, the sun making an early exit behind the macrocarpa, and I was happy. I'd got the job, and I'd be coming home. But still I asked myself, what could I taste in the southern air, blasting in off the Whitecaps, so much sweeter and more bitter than that of the Waikato of Te Tautokoro, which had been my temporary homes. Otapoti was not Kristan's first home, nor will it be her last. But she made friends with that cold southern wind. She listened to it and she understood. Because the world can be harsh, but you don't have to be. Because nature may not care, but you can. The only love you may find is the love that you bring. So bring it. And the questions you need answered that can be, will be. Where is Kristan? She is to the north, where the sky lightens over the hills cradling the valley. Kapuka Tamahaka holds her still in the light of each new dawn. Where is Kristan? She is in the darkness of the audience, having taken your hand and led you to the pool of light which you stand in now on the stage. You look for her, but you cannot see her. She has placed you where you needed to be. Where is Kristan? She is building, person by person, a tower made of light that will outshine the darkness of the world. Where is Kristan? She is reading in a vast library where fictions are held accountable to science, where science must answer to the truth, where truth itself is brought out from the shadows and into the light so it may be clearly seen. Where is Kristan? She is spinning a web made of light that will cradle her family from the first beads of morning dew and beyond the setting of the sun to the new dawn. Where is Kristan? She's sitting across from you in a light-filled room, telling you with her eyes that you already are the person you thought you could never be. Where is Kristan? She's looking for her keys, her phone, because the things she needed were never that important. Where is Kristan? She is free and wild, unburdened of trivia, released into the pure spirit of love, which was the light she absorbed and reflected. Where is Kristan? She is telling Hamlet the sheep, who is dying, that it's okay. Where are we? We are in darkness, but we walk towards your light. Where am I? I'm sitting in Knox Church, and Ms. Mouat, saying goodbye to you is hard. Where are you? And you reply to each one of us saying, I am in each fleeting second of the araha we shared, and in this moment I am infinitely yours.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Ko te mihi tuatahi ki ngā ātua, tēnā koutou. Ko te mihi tuarua ki te whānau o Kristan, tēnā koutou. Ko te mihi tuatoru ki a Kristan Mouat, tēnā koe. Ko Ballerini aho. Kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Ballerini and I have the absolute privilege of speaking on behalf of the beautiful Kristan as one of her many students that she dedicated her life to nurturing. As I mentioned in the service that we held at the school this morning, I firstly would like to acknowledge what an honour it is that I was asked to speak before you all today. I understand that every person here will have their own special connection to Kristan, all with their own stories to tell, and so I'm grateful that I am able to share some of mine with you all today. Kristan's influence has been incredibly expansive. It is felt far beyond just the people in this room and will be continued to be felt throughout our future generations. I know for me personally, the influence that she had on me is embedded in my DNA as she contributed to my development into adulthood. I was incredibly fortunate to have experienced Kristan undertake a number of significant roles in my life. She was not only one of my co-principals, but my teacher during my senior years of media studies. She was my Year 13 scholarship mentor, and then as I transitioned into being a young adult, she was my friend. Despite these roles being different in nature, she never failed to treat me with absolute respect. I feel an immense amount of gratitude when I reflect on the connection that we shared and the significant amount of time we spent together, especially as my time as her head girl back in 2018. I absolutely acknowledge that the lessons that she taught me inside and outside of the classroom have been instrumental in who I am as an adult today, and I hope to bring the same respectful and gracious qualities that Kristan brought into my future interactions. When I reflect on some of my favourite moments together, I think back to our morning kōrero about the whakatauki that we wanted to share with the rest of the school. And so I thought it would be fitting to share one with you today, which in my eyes couldn't describe Kristan more perfectly. Ko atutahi te whetū tareke o te rangi. Canopus is visible out in the open expanse of the sky. Or, in other words, an outstanding individual. And what an outstanding individual Kristan Mouat is. Kristan's wairua was continuously illuminating everything that she came into contact with. She wanted everyone to succeed in their own right, and she understood that success may look different for each person. She provided the nutrients to the soil below our feet that allowed us all to grow at our own pace, all whilst encouraging us to simply be the best human beings that we can be. Especially in adolescence, we're faced with the internal struggle of self-identity as we discover where we fit into this scary world. Kristan ever so gently tapped into those deep internal processes as she helped us recognise our strongest qualities, making the journey of self-discovery something to be really excited about. She encouraged us all to feel empowered and invigorated by our passions as she created the space for us to explore our true potential without any fear of judgment. With every interaction you had with Kristan, you not only felt a deeper connection with yourself, but with the people and the whenua around you. And I think that's a true testament to the selflessness that Kristan embodied. So, whakaputai ki a koe, Kristan. I will forever be grateful for the bond that we shared and for the way that you have helped shape me into being who I am today. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou katoa. Thank you so much for listening.
lot of you know that Kristan was my aunt. Sorry. But honestly, she was more like a second mum and a best friend. I've realised how incredibly lucky I've been to have her in my life, and how amazing of a role model she's been. She loved unconditionally, she cared for so many, and she used all of her energy to make sure others were taken care of. She was my rock, and she was the person I leaned on. We spoke every day, and I feel eternally grateful that I got to be such a big part of her life. I would give anything to have longer with her. But as quoted in Blade Runner, a light that shines twice as bright burns half as long. The last few years had been the most difficult and stressful time of her life, and it took a toll on her that she would never let anyone see. But the support of many of you really, truly meant so much to her and kept her going through the hardest of times. She was one of the strongest and most compassionate people I know, and while my beautiful girls only got to feel her love for a short time, her endless patience, childlike imagination, and pure joy will live on in them. Kristan, I will miss seeing your face and speaking to you every day. And like for so many others, your impact on my life has been extraordinary. You've inspired me to love more, to give more, understand and care for others more deeply, and to be truly aware of the impact my words and my actions have on others. I love you, and your absence has forever left a hole in my heart. But I know you're in a better place. I'm watching over all of us with your love.
Okay. Oh, I might need some glasses. Tēnā koutou katoa, Om Shanti. Om means, is a special greeting we use. Om means either soul, Shanti, peace. Om Shanti, peace be with you. Thank you for coming to share in this time of grief with us as we remember a beautiful soul. Kristan was a bright light who touched the hearts and minds of many. Thank you for your lovely tributes, flowers and support. We were blessed to have Kristan in our life. She was a sparkling angel, and unfortunately, God needed another angel to help spread light and love throughout the world. I'm Kristan's older sister, Justine. We were very close, and I need to hold it together. And we will miss her immensely. The photo montage and songs are providing a little glimpse into Kristan's life. My beautiful sister was born in Clyde Hospital, Alexandra, on New Year's Eve. She loved that her birth was on 31st of December, as there was always a party and lots of celebrations on that day, especially in Alex and Wanaka. My beautiful, she was much loved. She was positive and caring, had a beautiful smile, lots of EQ, and very perceptive. She was disciplined, a hard worker, empathetic listener, and very efficient, an inspiration to us. Kristan loved and admired Mum and was very proud of her when she received a QSM at Government House for her service. She was a strong woman for her time, an independent thinker and a hard worker.
In her younger days, Mum was a journalist for New Zealand Women's Weekly and was sent on assignment doing an article about the Haas Pass Road. That was being constructed, connecting the west coast with Central Otago. Dad, Tom Mouat, was the civil engineer on the site responsible for the road. Dad was one of 9 children, so Mum inherited a large, caring family when she married. Together they had 5 lovely kids, and Kristan was the 4th. They were very happy in Alexandra, where us kids could run wild with no supervision, and in those days we didn't have to lock the house or the one family car, if you had one. Kristan was 6 when Dad passed from a heart attack at Nevis Bluff. His death was devastating and had a huge impact on us. Leaving Mum with 5 young children, aged between 2 and 11. I'm sorry. We were fortunate to have a stable home built by Dad and a mate. The Alexandra community wrapped round us and supported Mum. Granddad, a sports journalist, moved down from Auckland to Alexandra to help. Kristan grew up in a time when there was very little television. It was black and white and broadcast for a very limited time, and there wasn't much on it. Our phone was on the wall, and if we wanted to talk to people, we usually rocked up to their house to play. Mum made us do schoolwork first before we could go out to play, reading, writing, and our times tables. Kristan had lots of friends, and when Mum bought a swing and slide set, friends were often at our house. Family friends, the McGeorges, lived next door and had 2 old Ministry of Works single men's huts, which made great playhouses. We were surrounded by 2 schools, a large park and wild area, so we had lots of places to play sports, build huts and hang out. Kristan loved reading, children's books and playing schools with her friends and baby brother. She had been doing again recently with my granddaughter Indiana, along with playing with the Doll's House. She was a St John cadet and Girl Guide, did speech and drama and played some piano. She skied, skated and played tennis and hockey. She was a good student who liked to learn, write and read. She became head girl at Dunstan High School, then came to Otago University and stayed in Unico. She completed a commerce degree. She did well and did some drama, English and honours papers also. She came to Christchurch Teachers College, then did a year at Burnside. She lived with us and shared a special bond with Annika and was a big part of her life. And in the last few years, Annika and Ryan, their gorgeous girls, brought her so much joy and lightness. She loved kids and animals, especially her sheep and Thor. Kristan loved teaching and was passionate about inspiring the next generation. She believed in her students and their potential. She saw good in each and every one and believed her students would go on to do great things and that great things would come out of Dunedin. She cared deeply about people and uplifted those around her. Kristan had so many beautiful qualities. Appreciation being one of the ones that she practiced regularly, focusing on the positives every day. She noticed specialities and let people know, complimented, uplifted and inspired others. She improved the spaces she moved in. She would want us to learn, grow, and be better. She taught mainly English and ESOL before stepping into media studies, an emerging subject area. She had also wanted to be a journalist like Mum and Granddad, so it dovetailed nicely with her interests. She taught at the College of Education for 10 years, also training teachers. She loved her family holidays and was looking forward to Oz next week. Walking on the beach, playing with Indian Mila, lying in the sun and reading books. Bliss, her happy place. She loved reading and wished more people loved reading. She would take her books shopping with us when we visited the big malls. She would park up and read when she was over shopping. For over 25 years, we annually went to Mount Abu in their winter when temperatures plummeted to below zero at night. We loaded ourselves up with 20 extra large bags of woolen hats and clothes provided by many Dunedin knitters to take with us and and oh dear, I've lost some of it. To take with us, can I have my computer? Sorry. Some lines were slightly lost in the printing. Don't know how that happened. Never mind. Okay. Right. For over 25 years, we annually went to Mount Abu in India. In their winter, where temperatures plummeted to below zero at night, we loaded ourselves up with 20 extra large bags of woolen hats and clothes provided by many Dunedin knitters to take with us. I've lost it on here too. Never mind. What was I going to say? Oh, well, and Denise Walsh and the school supported us, and we would distribute that clothing when we got there with the Village Outreach Program, the Global Hospital Village Outreach Program, to the poorer villages around Mount Abu. And they were really poor. This is why you have notes, so you don't go off waffling. Anyway, the kids over there, like winter, it got below zero, and a lot of them, all they had was their one school uniform that they got every year, blue shorts, blue top, and they wore it all the time and maybe changed it with another school uniform, and that was provided by the state. They didn't have a lot, the really poor villages. And it was a place that she went, and it really recharged her. It was where she got her spiritual sustenance from. She got her time out and a chance to recharge. Coming back, our last visit, when we came back, it was January 2020, and we were coming through Singapore airports. And the Wuhan virus was just coming into play. What we noticed at Singapore airport was all those coming from China were wearing masks, and that was quite different to what we thought at that time. We thought that was a bit over the top. But it became part of our life. So life became more challenging, lockdowns, school closures, teaching online. Our mother became unwell, so we brought her to Dunedin to care for her until she passed. In September 2020, COVID continued to disrupt our lives. Like everything she did, she tried to make sense of what was happening and read widely, including hundreds of scientific studies relating to coronavirus treatment and protocols, which informed her decision. Myocarditis and clots emerged early as signs of possible side effects of the shots. She got a medical certificate for an exemption due to her heart issues, which was valid until the rules were changed. Where there is risk, there must always be freedom to choose without being penalised. Sadly, people were forced to choose between the shots or their jobs and livelihoods. She felt betrayed by PPTA and her government, MPs and others. The name-calling, stigmatising and excluding she experienced was sanctioned bullying. It was made acceptable to divide, segregate and demonise those who made an informed choice like her. Kristan was proud of Logan Park High School and the actions that they took and the people that supported her. She thoroughly appreciated it because it was the worst time in her life. It was incredibly traumatic. She'd given her heart and soul to Logan Park for over 30 years, and she was really proud that Logan Park High School managed to honour its values of inclusion, respect and diversity. She was fortunate to keep her job, and she knew that, as some tried to cancel her and disappear her. Her spiritual foundation gave her strength to deal with the challenging times, and it was an important part of Kristan's life. She was part of the Interfaith Council for 20 plus years, helping to organise Week of Prayer for World Peace every year. In 2000, we organised a Peace Week at the university and a march for peace down the main street as part of a UN, United Nations project in the Year of Peace. She meditated every day and taught Raja Yoga meditation, a simple technique where we remember God and connect on a vibrational level. I'd like us to take a moment in silence to pause and reflect and remember Kristan. It might help you to focus your thoughts if you close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and relax. Take your awareness inwards and focus on your thoughts, creating a peaceful, loving feeling. Emerge Kristan in your thoughts and surround her in that loving energy. Reach out and talk to her with your thoughts. Share with her your farewell, your appreciation, your good wishes. Om Shanti. Kristan passed peacefully at home early Saturday morning, 10th of June, from acute myocardial infarction, a heart attack. It was sudden and unexpected. She wouldn't want us to be sad. She would want us to see the beauty in this world and others. Songs inspired Kristan. The next song, Fight Song by Rachel Platten, helped get her through the recent hard times. Kia kaha. Dear one, I know you are up there spreading light and love in all directions, and we will miss you. Om Shanti.
Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. Like how a single word can make a heart open. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. And all those things I didn't say were wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fight left in me. Losing friends and I'm chasing sleep. Everybody's worried about me. In too deep. You say I'm in too deep. It's been 2 years, I miss my home. There's a fire burning in my bones. Still believe, yeah, I still believe. And all of those things I didn't say were wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fight left in me. A lot of fight left in me. Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. Like how a single word can make a heart open. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fight left in me. No, I've still got a lot of fight left in me.
Hello, I'm Tim Hillaby. I'm glad we had that song because I managed to gather myself. We said we weren't going to do that. However, I had the great fortune of knowing Kristan and travelling with Kristan and Justine to India for 25 years. The greater fortune for the past 13 years of living with Kristan in Watts Road. And Peter, I can understand what you were saying about never having an argument, because although we had different opinions on things, we have never argued. It was more fun in trying to find that common space, that common ground. And understanding without needing somebody else to take the same point of view as I had, or that Kristan had. We could respect each other's opinions. Kristan did have passions, and it would be wrong of us to leave here without me sharing at least a couple of them with you. She was an advocate for transparency and truth and balance of argument. And to that end, I'd like to, as you leave, there will be pamphlets regarding a reality check radio, which has some very high profile experts and personalities that have a different point of view to the narrative that's been told to us by normal media outlets at this time and over the past few years. So they're available to you if you want to pick one up on your way out. Also, meditation, contemplation, reflection. There's a pamphlet on the World Meditation Hour, which is held at Watts Road every third Sunday, 5:30 to 6:30. Now, and you'll be very welcome to join us for that if you wish, and there's information out there also. In India, one of the more delightful experiences that we have is when we have a gathering, that we always leave that gathering by sharing a sweet and a blessing. And they will be given to you if you wish as you leave. The sweet is to help us think sweetly and speak sweetly. The blessing is reminding us of our intrinsic nature. Nothing we have to go and find, nothing we have to build on. It's something that's within each of us. Sometimes we have to dust those sort of things off, but they're there. And so the blessing that you'll get will be unique to you and can be relied on in times of challenge or joy. So they'll be handed out also. The people who are going to help me with that, if you could meet me at the back when the piper plays, please. We can do that. Kristan loved all of you. And you all loved Kristan, and she knew that.
As we come to the conclusion of this service, the family has invited everyone to afternoon tea, which is through in the halls at the back of the church here. So you can go around this way or out this door. You are all most welcome. There's many, many more conversations, I suspect, to have at this time. After this prayer, we will be listening to Amazing Grace, and then we will be leaving. And may each of you find in these words of prayer the Holy One who is your sustenance and comfort at this time. At the end of the prayer, we will say together the Lord's Prayer in English, in Te Reo Māori, or in the language of your choice. Please join in as you are able. We pray. Holy God, breath of life, sustainer of hope, comfort of embracing and forever love. We give thanks that we can share with you our pain and our grief, our gratitude and our appreciation for having known this unique and amazing woman, Kristan. We give thanks for her life, her giftings, her battles and her strength, her passions and her faith. She was a fighter, we have heard that. She was an inspirer and a life guide, a teacher and leader of enormous influence. She was also a practitioner of her faith, living love, mercy and forgiveness in the best and the worst of times. and she still is, and will continue to be, all that to each who knew and loved her. In the words of Rachel Platten, like a small boat in the ocean, sending big waves into motion, she not only stood strong and made her voice heard when fighting for justice, but she also sent those waves of inspiration out in her teaching, in her spiritual life, in her living each day. And those waves will continue well into the future and through many generations. And for this we give thanks. Compassionate God, we ask that family, friends, and all here be held in your love, that they know your comfort in their grief, that they find strength and hope in all that has been shared today, in the memories and the love that surrounds them, today and every day. Gracious God, we pray your blessing and comfort on all here, in Jesus' name. And we say together, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial, and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom